North America was pure nightmare fuel, every corner swarming with predators that made survival nearly impossible. Giant short-faced bears could outrun a racehorse, and if you somehow escaped them, mastodons with tusks like spears could crush you without hesitation. Even the air felt hostile, as if nature itself wanted you erased. And the worst part? You haven't even met the apex killer yet. Fossils of shovel-tusked elephants first drew attention in the early 1900s when paleontologists uncovered odd jaw fragments in Eurasia and parts of Africa. At first, experts struggled to understand what these wide lower tusks represented. Traditional elephant fossils had only the usual two upper tusks, so this discovery hinted at a different branch of proboscidean evolution. Researchers soon named genera like Platybelodon and Amebelodon to highlight the animal's flat lower tusks. Other finds, including partial skulls, mandibles, and scattered limb bones, confirmed that these creatures stood apart from modern elephants. Scientists placed these animals in the family Amebelodontidae, a group that diverged from the lines leading to modern elephants and mammoths. Within this family, each genus showed its variations in tusk shape and jaw length. Platybelodon, for example, displayed an especially wide spoon-like mandible. Amebelodon had a narrower, yet still elongated jaw. Each name often referenced the flattened design of their incisors, which made them look like living shovels. Over time, more fossils emerged from sites in China, Mongolia, and parts of Eastern Europe, building a clearer picture of how far these animals spread. Classifying these elephant relatives proved challenging. Some early scholars thought they might be swamp dwellers that fed only on aquatic plants, while others linked them to large ancestors of modern elephants. Genetic studies are not possible, as DNA rarely survives from such ancient ages. Instead, experts compared skull shapes, tooth wear, and jaw structure. The more data they collected, the more they realized that shovel-tusked elephants were a unique offshoot, not a direct stepping stone to African or Asian elephants. One puzzling detail was how to interpret the lower tusks. Some paleontologists proposed they served as scoops for mud or water plants, while others believed they cut through thick vegetation. These debates fueled new digs. Teams uncovered skeletons with special jaw muscles and tooth enamel ridges, showing that the lower tusks were more complex than simple tools. Each new fossil site raised fresh questions. Did these elephants travel in herds? How did they compete with other large mammals? Such mysteries continued to inspire research as scientists pieced together the story of a group that redefined what it meant to be an elephant. Shovel-tusked elephants emerged during the Miocene, a time of shifting climates and expanding grasslands. Early proboscideans were experimenting with new ways to feed, and the broad lower tusks of these animals opened doors to plants that others could not reach. Instead of tall, rigid teeth like mammoths or conical cusps like mastodons, they forged a unique path by flattening their lower incisors into shovel-like structures. In Asia, some of the earliest forms arose in areas with seasonal rains. Lush riverbanks likely supported stands of wetland vegetation. Fossils from Mongolia and China reveal how these elephants adapted to local conditions. Meanwhile, more finds in Africa suggest a parallel spread, although differences in jaw size or tusk angle hint at subtle variations. Researchers propose that the shared trait of wide lower tusks came from a common ancestor in the Amebelodontidae lineage, with each species fine-tuning that feature over time. This divergence shaped their place in the broader proboscidean family tree. While modern elephants followed a course leading to the Elephantidae family, shovel-tuskers veered off, focusing on a specialized feeding apparatus. Over millions of years, different climates pressured them to refine their strategies. Some took advantage of marshy lowlands, while others exploited the edges of forests. Each group had teeth shaped by repeated contact with tough plants or gritty sediment, a clue to what they ate most often. Fossil localities holding partial skeletons reveal that these elephants sometimes coexisted with huge rhinos, forming a dynamic ecosystem. Competitive interactions likely spurred further adaptation. If water plants dried up, a population might shift to bark or tubers, building stronger jaws or thicker tusk enamel. Some species thrived, while others vanished if habitats changed too fast, This wave of branching and possible extinction events explains why their bones appear sporadically in the rock record. By the end of the Miocene, shovel-tusked elephants were a recognized presence across broad territories. Younger strata yield fewer remains, implying certain forms faced extinction as climates cooled or grew unpredictable. Genetic analyses are not available for these extinct lines, so paleontologists rely on tooth microwear, jaw mechanics, and bone arrangement to reconstruct their ancestry. Shovel-tusked elephants combined basic elephant traits with dramatic twists. Their long trunk and robust body looked familiar at first, but the lower jaw projected outward in a broad arc. This shape ended in two flat incisor tusks that formed a shovel-like surface. The upper tusks, though present, seemed less imposing compared to the bold scoop below. Skull studies show a reinforced mandible equipped with sturdy muscle attachments to manage heavy feeding loads. The lower tusks were sheathed in strong enamel, often worn down in angled patterns. Some species had tusks that flared out, while others displayed narrower edges, hinting at subtle differences in local diets. This specialized jaw design likely demanded a slightly altered head posture. In many specimens, the jaw joint sits higher than that of typical elephants, granting extra leverage for prying or scraping. Their bodies could be large. Certain forms matched the size of modern elephants, while others were a bit smaller or stouter. Leg bones indicate they bore massive weight, suggesting thick limbs and broad foot pads that stabilized them in muddy or soft ground. Yet some remains imply more agility than we might expect from such big creatures. They needed to cross mixed terrain, from riverbanks to forest edges. That versatility shaped everything from their joint structure to the shape of their shoulders. Another clue emerges from tooth arrangement. Besides the lower tusks, they also had strong molars with ridges suited for chewing tough plants. The combination of slicing edges on the shovel-like tusks and grinding surfaces on the molars made them effective multi-purpose feeders. Their trunk, though lacking direct fossil confirmation of soft tissue, must have been flexible enough to guide branches, grasses, or submerged vegetation onto the shovel. This synergy let them grab, cut, and chew, all in one fluid motion. These elephants harnessed their lower tusks in creative ways. Many paleontologists once pictured them knee-deep in swamps, using the tusks like scoops for aquatic plants. Yet later research broadened this view. Wear patterns on some jaws show scuffs and grooves that fit a bark stripping method, while others suggest slicing through grasses or reeds. Rather than having a single feeding style, shovel tuskers likely adapted to a range of food sources. Imagine one of these giants wading into a shallow wetland. The trunk drifts across the surface, spotting leafy stems or floating greens. With a downward tilt of the head, the lower tusks press into soft mud, capturing thick clumps of vegetation. Then, with a pull of the trunk, the plants slide onto the shovel's edge, ready for chewing. In drier periods, the same elephant might wander to a nearby grove. There, it braces a trunk full of branches against the shovel to tear off bark strips or outer wood. This approach yielded nutrients hidden beneath tough surfaces. Roots and tubers were also prime targets. By digging shallow pits, they uncovered starchy foods that other herbivores could not easily reach. Some finds show scratch lines on the underside of tusks that might come from scraping dirt or gravel. Over time, these repeated actions would round the tusk tips, giving them a distinctive wear pattern. Each site's local environment influenced how much time they spent on aquatic plants versus roots or bark. Young individuals likely perfected their technique by watching adults. A calf might start with softer shoots, building strength in its jaw before attempting heavier tasks like uprooting tubers. Meanwhile, older members with fully developed tusks could manage denser material. Their flexible trunk added fine control, enabling them to pick single stems or big bundles. Together, trunk and shovel formed a dynamic feeding system that set them apart from typical two-tusked elephants. Some authors propose that this feeding flexibility granted them an edge in regions with seasonal changes. When wetlands dried, they could shift to dry land resources, and vice versa. Yet it also meant that any extreme environmental shift could jeopardize part of their diet. While adept at multiple tasks, they still relied on wetlands or forests with abundant plant life. Through this combination of trunk skills and shovel tusks, they met daily nutritional needs in ways unmatched by other giant herbivores. Most shovel-tusked elephants thrived in zones with water, such as river valleys, swamps, or seasonal floodplains. Their broad tusks needed softer ground for digging up roots, and aquatic plants often grew thick in these places. Fossils in certain strata reveal them near ancient lakes, where sediment layers preserve footprints and broken twigs. Yet they did not limit themselves only to marshes. Some finds come from woodland edges or mixed savanna settings, proving they could adapt to varied terrain. In lush wetlands, they had easy access to reeds and other succulent plants. Bogs and swamps offered a steady supply of water, crucial for large proboscideans. Here, they might share space with smaller amphibious mammals or large wading birds. Tree stumps with shredded bark remain as evidence that these elephants occasionally stripped trunks. When water receded, the shovel-tusker might move along the river corridor, searching for fresh stands of grass or shrubs. In forested zones, they took advantage of thicker vegetation. Traces of leaf fragments or twig, cut marks in surrounding fossil sites, highlight browsing behavior. They also left behind path-like impressions where repeated foraging carved out trails. Their wide jaws allowed them to gather large amounts of foliage in a single maneuver. Even in slightly drier areas, shallow water holes offered relief. These animals could dig with the lower tusks to reach moist soil layers that smaller creatures could not tap. Climate changes sometimes affect their prime habitats. During wetter phases, populations expanded along floodplains. When drier cycles returned, water sources shrank, pushing herds to retreat or shift diets. Over time, these cycles shaped local shovel-tusker communities, with some groups specializing in muddy wetlands, others adjusting to patchy woodlands. Their footprints in certain ancient lake beds show that multiple individuals may have gathered at once, hinting at possible herd dynamics. Being large herbivores, they influenced the environment. By uprooting or stripping plants, they could open gaps in vegetation, creating feeding spots for smaller animals. Their dung likely spread seeds, supporting plant growth across wide areas. This interplay suggests that shovel-tuskers helped maintain diverse habitats. They were not mere wanderers, but active participants in shaping the ecology around them. Whether in thick reeds or along forest margins, their presence resonated across the ancient landscape. Shovel-tusked elephants stood among the largest herbivores of their time. Their size alone granted them a deterrent against predators, though big cats or bear-like carnivores might have tested the young or sick. The real advantage lay in how they accessed food that other creatures could not. By digging, scraping, and scooping, they tapped into water plants, bark, or underground tubers that slower or smaller herbivores rarely reached. In many areas, they coexisted with multiple large grazers, including ancient horses or rhinoceroses. Each group carved out a niche. Horses favored open grass, rhinos took to browsing shrubs, and shovel-tuskers combined aquatic and bark-based strategies. This partitioning lets them reduce direct feeding conflicts. Still, overlap occurred at waterholes or when certain plants were in short supply. During stressful times, these elephants likely used their imposing frame to claim prime feeding spots, chasing away lesser rivals. Their social structure remains unclear. Fossil trackways occasionally show parallel footprints, hinting at group travel. Shared skeleton deposits in certain quarries propose that they might have gathered or died together. If they had social bonds akin to modern elephants, older individuals might have led family units to stable water or better feeding grounds. Such guidance would have bolstered the group's survival in dry spells. Their wide jaws and strong trunk gave them the means to transform certain patches of land. Pulling bark from trees left scarring that shaped forest growth. Extracting roots caused soil disturbance, creating bare patches for new seedlings. Some scientists argue that these processes elevated them to a keystone herbivore, with effects rippling through local ecosystems. Smaller animals could exploit the changes in vegetation structure, while certain plants depended on the clearing. Competition might have flared with other trunk-bearing relatives. Early mastodons or gomphotheres roamed some of the same territories. In direct encounters, the shovel-tusker's specialized mouthparts might have given it an edge for certain food sources. Over time, shifting climates or migrations could alter who thrived. If wetlands dried or new predators arrived, the balance changed. But for as long as conditions favored them, shovel-tusked elephants reigned near rivers and bogs, commanding the resources they needed. Their powerful jaws and curious feeding styles let them flourish, shaping both the land and the broader web of life they inhabited. As time pressed on, the once thriving shovel-tusked elephants found their favored habitats changing. Temperatures dropped, rainfall patterns shifted, and grasslands expanded in some areas, while wetlands shrank in others. The specialized feeding needs of these animals, well-tuned to moist soils and abundant vegetation, turned into liabilities when water sources receded. Marshy zones turned to dry flats, and river courses altered, robbing them of the easy foraging they relied upon. Some species tried to adjust by focusing more on bark or deeper tubers, but changes to local plant communities could be swift. If a wetland dried faster than the elephants could adapt, entire populations might suffer. In addition, new competitors and predators evolved or arrived. Dire wolves and big cats may have posed threats to calves. Other large herbivores, including advanced elephant lineages, also spread. These incoming groups sometimes used resources more efficiently or occupied overlapping niches. Humans may not have played a direct role in the earliest shovel-tusker extinctions, as many species vanished long before large-scale human expansion. Instead, the environment itself dealt the biggest blows. Fluctuations in climate over the late Miocene and into the Pliocene created repeated stress. Long migrations in search of stable habitats wore down herds. Fragmented populations grew more vulnerable to disease or inbreeding. The once great range of shovel-tuskers shrank, leaving only scattered pockets of survivors. Fossil evidence in younger layers shows a steep drop in shovel-tusker remains. Even the more adaptable species diminished. Paleontologists note that the shape of jaws in later forms seemed less extreme, as if those groups tried to moderate their specialized design. But the final shift into more arid conditions spelled doom. Some localities show a final scattering of bones, with no sign of younger layers to continue the story. Eventually, these four-tusked giants faded from their landscapes, leaving behind confusion for future explorers. Early diggers found the odd jaws and wondered how such animals could vanish. In truth, their extinction likely arose from a blend of habitat loss, tough competition, and global climate swings. Their reign ended, clearing the way for other proboscideans. By the dawn of the Pleistocene, shovel-tuskers were memories in the rock record, overshadowed by the rise of mammoths and modern elephants. Although shovel-tusked elephants disappeared millions of years ago, their fossils continue to fascinate researchers. Paleontologists see them as prime examples of how trunked mammals can evolve remarkable features when environmental openings present new feeding possibilities. The mix of upper and lower tusks challenges our usual picture of elephants, proving that even close relatives can adopt very different diets and lifestyles. Studying these extinct giants helps us appreciate the diversity that once existed among proboscideans. We tend to think only of mammoths and mastodons when imagining ancient elephants, but shovel-tuskers reveal another branch that broke away. By analyzing their teeth and jaw mechanics, scientists refine their ideas about how big herbivores shaped ecosystems. These animals, with their strong shovel tusks, likely stirred up riverbanks, trimmed young trees, and dug up roots, affecting plant regrowth patterns. Museums often display large reconstructions of Platybelodon or Amebelodon jaws, letting visitors see how alien they look compared to modern elephant skulls. Such exhibits underscore the dynamic nature of evolution. While some lineages produce simpler changes, others swing for bold adaptations. Even though they vanished, their place in Earth's history reminds us that survival can hinge on specialized traits. When climates shift too fast, those same traits can become drawbacks. Academic work on shovel-tuskers also guides conversations about the future. As global weather patterns become less predictable, understanding how past species dealt with dryness or habitat loss offers valuable lessons. These elephants once excelled at thriving along wetlands, only to fall when those wetlands changed. Fossils of the short-faced bear first appeared in the mid-1800s, pulling scientists into a debate over what kind of beast they had uncovered. Early naturalists found bones in caves and river deposits across North America, but confusion surrounded the remains because they shared traits with other bears that lived long ago. Some thought the bones belonged to extinct hyenas, while others connected them to giant versions of modern grizzlies. Eventually, experts realized they represented a new genus called Arctodus. The name Arctodus translates to bear tooth, hinting at the imposing jaws that set this creature apart. Two main species emerged: Arctodus simus, also called the giant short-faced bear, and Arctodus pristinus, known as the lesser short-faced bear. Each species showed strong build, but Arctodus simus took size to another level. Researchers placed these bears in the subfamily Tremarctini, a group including extinct lineages that once roamed the Americas. The push to classify these bears included studying their teeth, skulls, and limb bones. Paleontologists noticed that Arctodus bones had unusual proportions, especially around the face and legs. This combination of features made them stand out from typical ursine bears like black or brown bears. Scientists also discovered that Arctodus shared a distant link with today's spectacled bear, a smaller forest-dwelling species in South America. Yet Arctodus was far larger and specialized for life in open spaces. Arctodus simus in particular drew attention because of its massive size. Studies suggested it could reach weights of over 900 pounds in smaller adults, with some estimates exceeding 1,500 pounds or more for huge males. Fossilized long bones hinted at a towering frame that dwarfed many other predators of the Pleistocene. With forward-facing toes and a short snout, Arctodus simus looked nothing like the round-headed bears we know today. The story of Arctodus begins with the rise of bears in the Americas during the late Miocene and Pliocene epochs. An older group of bears, called Plionarctos, gave rise to the short-faced line known as Tremarctini. Over millions of years, shifting climates and evolving prey encouraged new body plans. Arctodus pristinus was the earliest form, smaller than its bigger cousin, Arctodus simus. Fossils of A. pristinus show it lived mostly in the eastern and southern parts of North America, while A. simus ended up spreading farther. Scientists believe that A. simus evolved specialized traits for hunting or scavenging in more open habitats. Glacial cycles created grasslands, shrublands, and patchy forests, forcing animals to move in search of food. Arctodus, with its long limbs, likely adapted to roam large distances. This allowed the bigger species to take advantage of prey movements or carcass locations across vast areas. Such an approach might have shaped its enormous frame, letting it dominate other predators when it found kills. DNA studies have linked Arctodus to the spectacled bear of South America, confirming that they share a subfamily. Though much smaller, the spectacled bear offers a peek at the short-faced line's genetic past. Some older theories proposed that Arctodus might connect to the giant panda or other unusual bear groups, but modern research points strongly to a separate American branch. The short-faced design, featuring deep jaws and robust limbs, stands out as a unique adaptation to the Ice Age environment. By the time the late Pleistocene arrived, Arctodus simus reigned as one of the biggest meat eaters on the continent. Saber-toothed cats and dire wolves also roamed the land, but Arctodus potentially outclassed them in size. Over many millennia, it refined traits that matched its active lifestyle. Its presence in both cooler northern regions and warmer southern areas showed how flexible it was. Even so, the fossil record remains patchy, making it tricky to track every step of its lineage's growth. The short-faced bear earned its name from a skull shape that appeared shorter and deeper than most bears we see today. Its snout gave it a unique profile, with broad cheekbones and large nasal openings. This design may have improved its sense of smell, letting it pick up scent trails over wide distances. The jaws were wide and powerful, hinting at a biting force capable of cracking bones or seizing big prey. In addition to the skull, Arctodus simus stood out for its height and limb proportions. Many reconstructions show a bear that could tower over a person when on its hind legs, possibly reaching 10 to 12 feet tall in peak individuals. On all fours, it might have been 5 feet at the shoulder. The front limbs were slightly longer than the back limbs, giving it a sloping back. This arrangement likely helped it pull down struggling animals or dig for food. The paws also had an unusual alignment. Unlike modern bears, which can have inward-facing toes, the short-faced bear had straighter toes that pointed forward. This stance could have made for a more efficient stride at moderate speeds. Some experts suggest it could gallop at a decent pace, though probably not as fast as a lighter predator like a lion. Still, for a bear that might weigh over 1,000 pounds, covering ground at any real speed was impressive. To support such mass, it had a sturdy skeleton. Large muscle attachments on the upper arms and shoulders signaled the ability to grapple. A thick chest, combined with a deep ribcage, left room for strong lungs and a robust heart. Some scientists think these traits reflect a lifestyle that involved roaming long distances to find kills or scavenge. If the bear needed to chase or displace other carnivores, having big muscles and endurance was a clear advantage. Teeth also offer clues to their versatility. The back molars were broad enough to grind some plant material, while the front teeth could slice through flesh. Wear patterns vary from site to site, suggesting different diets based on local habitats. Overall, the short-faced bear's body was a bundle of raw power, shaped by open environments and fierce competition. Everything about it, from its muzzle to its tall frame, spoke of an Ice Age giant always ready to push limits. For years, scientists wondered how a massive bear could move across the landscape without exhausting itself. Some proposed that Arctodus simus was built for swift travel, at least in short bursts. Its forward-facing toes and long limbs hint at a pace more efficient than you'd expect from a giant. Observers note that modern polar bears can still run over 25 miles an hour in short sprints, so perhaps Arctodus did something similar. When it walked, the bear's footprints likely differed from the pigeon-toed trackways of living bears. With straighter feet, it might have had a narrower gait, saving energy. A forward stance also helps with scanning distances in open terrain. Researchers look at leg proportions and muscle attachments to guess how it might trot or lope. A heavier body demands strong joints, so Arctodus probably avoided twisting motions, relying on forward power. This might explain the stable but imposing design of its skeleton. What about its daily life and social behavior? Some bears today gather in feeding spots or fish runs, but we lack proof of group living in Arctodus. It might have led a mostly solitary life, defending territories that stretched for miles. Larger males likely roamed widely in search of mates or carcasses to scavenge. Females may have used caves for birthing or shelter, but direct evidence is rare. We do find partial skeletons in caves, which might mean denning sites or accidental falls. Encounters with other Ice Age predators must have been dramatic. Saber-toothed cats lurked in brushy areas, while dire wolves traveled in packs. A towering bear could drive them off a kill through sheer intimidation, but if it faced a pack or a determined cat, fights were possible. Bite marks on some bones suggest Arctodus occasionally fed on large carcasses, though we cannot always tell if it made the kill. Its size alone puts it high on the list of most formidable mammals. Scientists have tested the nitrogen isotopes in short-faced bear bones to see how much meat it ate. These studies often show high levels of certain isotopes linked to carnivorous diets. However, the full picture is complex. Some samples suggest a near-carnivorous lifestyle, while others imply more flexibility. Arctodus had big canines for ripping flesh, but also broad molars that could handle some plant matter. This puzzle fuels debate on whether it hunted actively or relied on scavenging. One idea portrays Arctodus as a hyper-carnivorous beast that ran down prey. Others believe it was too bulky for long chases, so it might have stolen kills from saber-toothed cats or dire wolves. A third view sees it as an omnivore that ate meat when available and plants when times were tough. Its jaws and teeth do let it crack bone for marrow, which is a prize in scavenged carcasses. Some bear skeletons show little wear from chewing bones, so not all individuals did so often. Fossils from La Brea tar pits in California reveal that Arctodus did not show the same patterns of heavy bone crunching as hyenas or some extinct dogs. Instead, it might have been selective about which parts of a carcass it consumed. Meanwhile, in northern areas like Alaska, samples suggest a higher dependence on meat, likely caribou or muskox. This difference highlights the adaptability of Arctodus across its range. In warm climates, it could nibble on fruits or tubers when protein was scarce. If it did hunt, it probably targeted young or injured animals. A full-grown mammoth or bison would pose a threat even to a big bear, but smaller or weaker prey might be easier. Also, the bear's height meant it could stand upright to sniff the air for miles, helping it locate carrion. Some scientists think it followed migrating herds from a distance, waiting for a chance to scavenge. Others insist it had enough speed to ambush, though that remains uncertain. Arctodus simus ranged across much of North America, from Alaska down into Mexico and east to parts of the Atlantic coast. Fossils appear in states like California, Texas, and Florida, though they are far less common than those of smaller bears. This suggests it lived at low density, patrolling large territories. Many areas had open grasslands or lightly forested zones, perfect for an active traveler. Some remains show up in mountainous caves, implying they could handle varied climates. During the Pleistocene, glaciers advanced and retreated, carving new landscapes. Large herbivores like bison, horses, camels, and ground sloths roamed wide ranges in search of food. Arctodus followed them, whether to hunt or to take over kills left by other predators. Warmer stretches opened new paths, while colder periods pushed life south. Evidence from stable isotopes points to a reliance on C3 plants in many regions, meaning it dwelled around cooler woodland edges or open meadows lined with shrubs. In Beringia, the land bridge region covering Alaska and parts of Canada, some Arctodus remains show higher meat consumption. Sparse vegetation and harsh winters forced animals to rely on any protein sources they could get. The bear's ability to roam large distances might have been crucial in these settings. Elsewhere, like in Florida, conditions were more humid, with patchy swamps and forests. The bear's presence there shows it could adapt to different diets and habitats as long as large prey or carrion were available. Competitive interactions shaped its niche. Saber-toothed cats specialized in ambush, and dire wolves attacked in packs. Both had trouble defending kills from an enormous bear that could tower over them. American lions also prowled the plains, likely competing for the same bison or horse herds. Each predator found success in certain strategies, but Arctodus used size to tip the balance. Some trackways hint it moved methodically across open ground, scanning for a meal or for weaker animals to exploit. The presence of caves in some finds suggests denning or occasional shelter. Like modern bears, it might have used natural hollows for rest or raising cubs. We do not know if it hibernated. The biggest males might have stayed active, relying on stored fat to endure lean times. The sheer variety of fossils found in different environments underscores their adaptability. Though huge, it navigated everything from tundra edges to prairies. The giant silhouette of Arctodus cast a shadow that spanned a continent. Around 12,800 years ago, many large Ice Age beasts vanished, including Arctodus simus. The exact cause is not certain. Climate change reduced the big prey that sustained it. Human hunters also spread across the continent, possibly competing for the same animals. Less food and increased pressure may have spelled doom for a creature that needed massive amounts of calories. Some believe the bear's specialized size and lifestyle were no longer an advantage as habitats shrank and big herbivores dwindled. This extinction signaled the end of a predator that left deep marks in the fossil record. Museums often showcase skeletons of the short-faced bear standing on its hind legs, dwarfing viewers. These displays highlight how fearsome it must have looked. Artists paint it striding across ancient plains, a symbol of raw strength. Films and documentaries sometimes label it the most violent bear to capture public attention. The idea of a huge, swift killer bear resonates with our fascination for powerful apex predators. In local folklore, stories of giant cave bears might have persisted as legends. Some cultures revere large bears in their traditions, though direct proof linking them to Arctodus is scarce. Yet the mere possibility stirs the imagination. Bones found in caves can look fresh if well preserved, leading to myths about recent sightings. People across North America once lived beside mammoths, mastodons, and large carnivores, so the presence of a monstrous bear is not far-fetched in those ancient narratives. For researchers, the short-faced bear represents a prime example of how specialized forms can flourish during certain times, but become vulnerable when conditions shift. Its memory lingers in academic circles, fueling studies on predator-prey dynamics. Every new fragment of bone triggers fresh debates about its size or habits. The name violent sticks partly because the Pleistocene world was a fierce place, and a huge predator left behind awe-inspiring skeletons. Arctodus simus set a benchmark for what we call a super predator. Today, children and adults alike marvel at the scale and power of this prehistoric creature. It stands among icons of North American megafauna, along with dire wolves, saber-toothed cats, and giant ground sloths. School textbooks often mention it to illustrate the dramatic changes that ended the Ice Age. The big bear's legacy endures, reminding us that even the mightiest can fall to shifting habitats and growing competition. Arctodus simus earned its fearsome label, but nature still had the final say. Researchers continue to probe the short-faced bear's past, seeking clarity on its true lifestyle. One big question is whether it sprinted after prey or mainly stole kills. Some scientists compare its limb proportions to faster bears like polar bears, noting that leaner body shapes can aid in bursts of speed. Others point out that a massive frame slows agility, making it better suited for intimidation or covering ground to find food. This clash of ideas keeps interest high. Genetic studies of rare Arctodus remains have opened new windows into its history. Mitochondrial DNA analysis revealed low genetic diversity, suggesting small populations vulnerable to environmental change. This might explain why it disappeared so quickly when the climate warmed and food sources grew scarce. Some remains from places like the Yukon show regional diets, while samples from Mexico hint at different local habits. Each new bone or tooth can yield clues about how these populations adapted. Tooth wear remains a popular topic. Some teeth look polished from gnawing on tough materials, while others show little damage. This mismatch might reflect different feeding styles or habitats. Those living near herds of big animals could afford to scavenge fresh kills, while others living in forest edges might nibble on more plant matter. Advances in stable isotope studies help pinpoint exact prey choices, linking Arctodus to bison, horses, or even smaller mammals. The range of possibilities continues to expand. Another debate focuses on how Arctodus used caves. Fossils in deep caverns might signal hibernation sites, maternal dens, or simple accidents where bears fell in. Some giant skeletons show advanced pathologies or injuries, raising questions about how these animals healed in the wild. Did they rely on large territories with multiple shelters? Did old males keep wandering year-round? We only get partial answers from the bones they left. The rest remains in the world of educated guesses. Fossils of the American cheetah first puzzled scientists who uncovered them in sites across North America. Early researchers could not agree on the animal's identity because the bones shared features with cougars, cheetahs, and even hyenas. In the late 19th century, some fossil teeth were labeled as belonging to a hyena called Crocuta inexpectata. Later, scientists shifted those remains to a cat group, linking them to the snow leopard or the puma. Over time, experts realized these fossils represented a new genus. Daniel Adams introduced the genus name Miracinonyx, which means wonderful unexpected cheetah. This name honors its cheetah-like traits and the surprising nature of its discovery. Two main species are widely recognized, Miracinonyx trumani and Miracinonyx inexpectatus. A potential third species, sometimes called M. studeri, remains debated and often merges into M. inexpectatus. Each species has small variations in the skeleton, but they share lean builds and specialized limbs. These traits resemble those of modern cheetahs, yet DNA and anatomical evidence show a closer link to pumas. In other words, the American cheetah's swift form did not develop from the African cheetah branch. Instead, it evolved within a lineage more like the cougar, resulting in a striking example of convergent evolution. Taxonomists still refine the family tree of these cats. At first, some thought real cheetahs must have started in North America and spread to the Old World, giving rise to African and Asian cheetahs. Further genetic tests suggest that the African cheetah evolved separately, while Miracinonyx grew unique features in North America. The two lines share certain speed adaptations, but likely branched from different ancestors millions of years ago. Their physical similarities, long legs, deep chests, and large nasal openings, reflect the shared challenge of hunting quick prey in open country. The classification of Miracinonyx reveals how life's puzzle fits together. Fossils from places such as Natural Trap Cave in Wyoming or Rampart Cave in the Grand Canyon have allowed paleontologists to piece together a clearer picture of these mysterious cats. Although debates about exact relations continue, most agree that Miracinonyx stands apart as a genus shaped by a harsh, competitive world that demanded both power and speed. Its classification sparks interest among researchers who study extinct felines. To understand the American cheetah, we look at the broader history of big cats in the Americas. Fossil evidence suggests that ancestors of today's pumas arrived in North America long before the last ice age. Over time, a branch of this group developed traits that set them apart from other felids. Scientists once believed that African cheetahs and American cheetahs shared the same origin. However, deeper DNA studies revealed that Miracinonyx likely diverged from a puma-like ancestor. This example of convergent evolution shows how similar conditions can mold different lineages into near lookalikes. The African cheetah roams grasslands and hunts by sprinting after gazelles and other swift animals. In Ice Age North America, Miracinonyx probably faced vast landscapes and fast-moving prey such as pronghorns. Both cats needed lean bodies, long limbs, and large nostrils for quick oxygen intake. Even their skulls show some parallel features for speed-based hunting. Yet their genetics hint that they belong to separate branches on the cat family tree. Some early theories place the origin of modern cheetahs in the New World, suggesting a back-and-forth migration. But more recent findings indicate that the African cheetah emerged in the Old World, while America's cheetah was truly its creature. Researchers now think these animals diverged millions of years ago and simply ended up with overlapping features. Each cat faced challenges that favored the evolution of speed, agility, and strong senses. Scientists date Miracinonyx back to at least 2.5 million years ago, during a period of changing climates and shifting habitats. Glaciers advanced and retreated, shaping the terrain, while many large herbivores roamed the continent. M. inexpectatus appears earlier in the fossil record and shows some puma-like traits. M. sutrumani appears later, with more refined features for open-ground pursuit. By the late Pleistocene, both forms likely shared some of the same regions, though their exact ranges are still under study. The American cheetah's body plan combined a graceful frame with powerful muscles. Early studies noted its long limb bones, which are comparable to those of African cheetahs. Paleontologists point out that Miracinonyx trumani had a deep chest and strong heart-lung capacity. Large nasal openings allowed greater oxygen flow, an advantage during high-speed sprints. A flexible spine likely helped it take longer strides, just as modern cheetahs do. Yet there were differences. Unlike the fully non-retractable claws of the African cheetah, M. trumani and M. inexpectatus appear to have at least partially retractable claws. This feature suggests they had some ability to climb or grapple, bridging the gap between a cougar's versatility and a true cheetah's specialized sprinting tools. The paws themselves were broad, hinting that these cats might have relied on traction when launching forward. Although experts debate the top speed, many suggest they could match or come close to modern cheetah ranges, possibly up to 60 or 70 miles per hour in short bursts. Miracinonyx inexpectatus might have been slightly more robust than M. trumani, showing a form closer to a puma's. Some think M. inexpectatus hunted in varied habitats, while M. trumani lived more in open areas. Both types, however, appear well-tuned for speed. They share elongated limbs, light frames, and specialized joint structures for quick acceleration. Their long tails probably acted as stabilizers during fast changes in direction, another cheetah-like trait. The streamlined skull shape also speaks to their hunting style. The jaw was less powerful than that of saber-toothed cats or lions, but it was strong enough to subdue medium to large prey. Large eyes and an expansive brain region dedicated to sight might have enhanced their ability to track swift targets on the move. Some skull fossils show ridges where strong neck muscles attached, helping them hold onto prey or brace for impact. These morphological details form a picture of a top-tier sprinter. Adaptations for speed can appear in unrelated animals when open terrain and fast prey set the rules. In Miracinonyx, that rulebook included flexible spines, strong respiratory systems, and the essential gear for agile sprints. Their design stands as proof that nature can craft impressive speed machines wherever conditions demand it. During the late Pleistocene, North America hosted a variety of habitats ranging from open grasslands to wooded valleys. The American cheetah likely thrived in places where it could chase down prey in relatively open terrain. Fossil remains have been discovered in states like Wyoming, Arizona, Colorado, and beyond, indicating that Miracinonyx roamed far and wide. In these ecosystems, Miracinonyx sat near the top of the food web. While it was not as massive as a saber-toothed cat, it had a unique advantage in speed and agility. Researchers believe it competed with other big predators such as dire wolves and possibly the American lion. Each carnivore had its method of hunting. Saber-toothed cats focused on powerful ambush attacks, while dire wolves ran in packs to overwhelm large prey. The American cheetah's niche centered on speed, letting it catch fast ungulates that might have slipped away from slower predators. Fossils in more rocky or rugged zones like the Grand Canyon area suggest that Miracinonyx was flexible in its habitat choices. It might have used canyon edges or high ground for scouting. Some experts propose that in steeper terrains, it could rely on short bursts of acceleration and agility rather than lengthy chases. This adaptability might explain why it spread across such a wide region, from near the Canadian border down into parts of Mexico. When glaciers expanded, animals moved south, following grassland corridors and other food sources. The American cheetah probably followed migrations of pronghorns, horses, and other grazers. Warmer periods allowed it to move north again. Fossils from natural trap caves show that various animals, including Miracinonyx, ended up falling into that site, revealing a snapshot of late Pleistocene wildlife. As an apex predator, it shaped herbivore behavior. Just as the lion influences zebra herds in Africa, Miracinonyx likely spurred caution and speed in its targets. Over thousands of years, pronghorns, for example, may have developed their incredible running power partly in response to these swift cats. By limiting weaker or slower individuals, the American cheetah could help maintain robust prey populations. In this sense, it performed a crucial ecological service, preserving balance in the system. Evidence from bone structure and tooth wear patterns suggests that the American cheetah hunted in ways that balanced sprinting with strong grappling. Modern cheetahs rely on extreme bursts of speed to bring down smaller hoofed animals, using minimal wrestling once they catch their target. By contrast, Miracinonyx had slightly more robust forelimbs and partially retractable claws, hinting at a style that could involve holding onto prey if needed. Some scientists think M. trumani specialized in faster hunts on open plains, more like the African cheetah. Others propose it had a broader repertoire. When chasing a pronghorn, it could rely on speed, but it also might have pinned its catch using stronger front legs. The partly retractable claws may have aided in hooking prey, reducing the risk of losing a meal. Meanwhile, M. inexpectatus could have adopted more puma-like tactics, lurking in broken terrain and pouncing from short distances. Each species likely matched its approach to the environment it occupied. Stable isotope studies from certain fossils hint that these cats focused on quick herbivores. Pronghorns, which can sprint at over 50 miles per hour, stood out as prime targets. Young horses, deer, or other mid-sized creatures might also have filled their diet. By attacking these agile animals, Miracinonyx used speed to outmatch prey that might escape slower predators. Some experts speculate it could have hunted in low-light conditions, using keen vision to track moving shapes on the open range. Interactions with other big carnivores were probably tense. A group of dire wolves might have stolen a cheetah's kill, forcing it to eat quickly or drag its prey to a safer spot. Saber-toothed cats lurking in brushy areas could have posed a threat. Fossil evidence indicates occasional injuries in Miracinonyx, possibly from conflicts with rivals or from collisions during high-speed chases. This predator lived in a world full of challenges where each day brought new risks and rewards. No discussion of the American cheetah is complete without mentioning its famous link to the pronghorn, a North American ungulate known for its incredible running ability. The pronghorn can reach speeds close to 55 miles per hour and maintain them over considerable distances, outpacing most predators alive today. Scientists often ask, why is the pronghorn so fast if few modern carnivores can catch it? One compelling answer points to Miracinonyx. This proposed arms race suggests that pronghorns evolved their great speed to outrun the American cheetah. As Miracinonyx grew more efficient at chasing, pronghorns with quicker bursts or better endurance had a higher survival rate. Over thousands of generations, these traits intensified, leaving modern pronghorns with running powers far beyond the needs of today's environment. Although direct fossil evidence of a Miracinonyx pronghorn kill is rare, the timing and shared habitat make the hypothesis compelling. Research on pronghorn physiology highlights large lungs, strong hearts, and specialized muscles suited for sustained speed. Meanwhile, cat fossils show limbs built for running and a chest that could handle rapid breathing. It is easy to see how each side tried to outdo the other's talents. As one species improved its ability to sprint, the other adapted to keep pace. This back-and-forth pattern may explain why the pronghorn is still one of the fastest land animals on Earth. Of course, Miracinonyx did not hunt pronghorns exclusively. Other swift herbivores, such as horses and smaller deer, also likely felt the heat of a chasing cat. But the pronghorn is the clearest modern example of potential coevolution. Its unmatched speed stands out today, even though the original threat it faced disappeared around 10,000 to 12,000 years ago. While some question whether the American cheetah alone drove pronghorn speed, most experts agree that a major running predator likely shaped pronghorn evolution. The cat's disappearance did not slow down the pronghorn's abilities, though. Pronghorns continue to carry the genetic memory of a bygone era when outrunning a swift, cougar-like cheetah could mean life or death. Their existence is a living reminder of that vanished race for survival on the Ice Age plains. The American cheetah's story unfolds through fossils found in various spots across North America. One of the most important sites is Natural Trap Cave in northern Wyoming. This cave trapped many Ice Age animals that fell through a hidden entrance, leaving behind a rich collection of bones. Paleontologists discovered nearly complete skeletons of Miracinonyx there, providing valuable clues about its build and lifestyle. Grand Canyon caves, including Rampart Cave, have also yielded cheetah remains. In these caverns, scientists identified skulls and other bones initially mistaken for puma fossils. Upon closer study, they realized the features matched Miracinonyx more closely. These Grand Canyon finds hint that the cat ventured through rugged canyon terrain, possibly hunting goats, sheep, or deer that roamed those cliffs. In Colorado, Florida, and other states, scattered bones of Miracinonyx have shown that this cat adapted to a wide range of environments. Some remains in Florida might suggest that it occupied warmer climates, mixing with other Ice Age predators like saber-toothed cats and dire wolves. In more mountainous zones, partial skeletons point to an animal flexible enough to chase prey over rocky ground. Not all these discoveries were recognized at once. Early paleontologists often assumed they were examining cougar fossils or mislabeled them as part of a different species. Through decades of research, a clearer pattern emerged. Experts realized these bones shared key traits: slender limbs, certain skull proportions, and signs of high-speed design. Only when they pieced those traits together did Miracinonyx come into focus as a distinct genus. Many of these sites also contain the bones of potential prey animals, such as pronghorns or young horses. This mix of predator and prey helps researchers reconstruct ancient ecosystems, showing how the American cheetah fit into the food chain. Advanced tools, including radiocarbon dating and stable isotope analysis, add further detail by revealing the diets and environments these cats experienced. Like many Ice Age icons, the American cheetah vanished around the end of the Pleistocene, roughly 10,000 to 12,000 years ago. Its disappearance occurred during a larger wave of extinctions that also claimed mammoths, saber-toothed cats, and giant ground sloths. The reasons remain debated. Climate change likely played a role, altering habitats and reducing the herds of large herbivores that these predators depended on. Human arrival in the Americas could have stressed big game populations even more, creating a ripple effect that left top predators with fewer options. Once Miracinonyx was gone, an entire predatory niche disappeared from North America. The pronghorn, which still roams today, no longer faced a cat that could outrun it. This may help explain why pronghorns remain overbuilt for survival, keeping speed skills that exceed current threats. Meanwhile, other carnivores, like cougars, adapted to new hunting strategies in a changing landscape. In modern times, the American cheetah stands out as a symbol of convergent evolution. Its sleek body and swift legs echo the African cheetah, yet science shows the two lines took separate paths. Museums often showcase skeleton reconstructions of Miracinonyx, highlighting the cat's lean design and large nasal passages. Artists and writers have embraced the idea of a lightning-fast cat racing across Ice Age plains. This image captivates imaginations, reminding us that North America once held a variety of predators as amazing as those in ancient Europe or Africa. For scientists, Miracinonyx provides lessons about adaptation, extinction, and environmental change. By studying its bones and comparing them to modern felines, paleontologists glean insights into how speed evolves under certain conditions. Some researchers also examine how these lessons might apply to current big cat conservation. Today's cheetahs face habitat loss and declining prey across Africa and parts of Asia. The fate of Miracinonyx underscores how vulnerable specialized hunters can be when their environment shifts. Its cultural significance grows as more people learn about the forgotten speed demon of the Ice Age. The name American cheetah alone draws curiosity, sparking interest in Earth's past. While it no longer roams the land, its story endures through fossils, DNA analysis, and the living record of prey that still sprints, as if waiting for a chase that ended thousands of years ago. Mastodons belong to a group called Proboscidea, which also includes modern elephants and extinct mammoths. Yet mastodons were not just another set of elephants. They formed their branch, the Mammotidae, separate from the Elephantidae, which covers African and Asian elephants and also includes mammoths. The best-known mastodon is the American mastodon, known scientifically as Mammoth americanum. But mastodon is sometimes used for all members of the genus Mammoth, meaning it can also refer to less famous species found in parts of North America. The name mastodon was inspired by the shape of their molars. It comes from Greek words for breast tooth, since their molars had cone-shaped projections that reminded early naturalists of nipples. These zygodont teeth stood in contrast to the flatter ridges found in mammoths. Early confusion led some people to lump mastodons in with mammoths, but a closer study revealed they diverged from the ancestors of modern elephants more than 25 million years ago. That was far earlier than mammoths parted ways from living elephants, placing mastodons in an older line that never developed the tall crowned grinding teeth typical in mammoths. Their fossil record is found mostly in Miocene to Pleistocene layers from Africa to North America. Eventually, they became largely restricted to North America. We often refer to them simply as mastodons, but the formal name is mammoth. This genus came from older forms like Zygolophodon, known for the same basic zygodont pattern of tooth ridges. Over the centuries, naturalists discovered mastodon remains scattered across the United States, from the East Coast to the Rocky Mountains. Teeth were so large that early colonists sometimes called them giant's teeth, or believed they belonged to biblical creatures. Thomas Jefferson famously took interest in these finds, seeing them as proof that the New World was home to massive animals that rivaled Europe's extinct megafauna. In size, an adult male mastodon often matched the modern Asian elephant in height, typically around 2.5 to 3 meters at the shoulder. Some especially big males approached or exceeded 3 meters. But they didn't just rely on height. They were built like living tanks, with a bulky body and sturdy legs. Their chest and ribs were also imposing, giving them a stocky look. In many ways, they were shorter but heavier than mammoths, with more muscle mass across the torso. One hallmark was their distinctive skull shape. Unlike mammoths or modern elephants, the mastodon cranium looked flatter from top to bottom. It lacked the tall dome we associate with woolly mammoths. The forehead did not rise quite as high, and its shape was less ballooned. Another special trait was in the teeth. Their molars had ridges arranged in pairs and formed blunt cone-like cusps, suited to shearing branches and chewing tough bark. This was a big advantage in forested environments full of twigs and leaves. The pointed cusp pattern set them apart from mammoths, whose flattened plates worked for grazing on grass. Also, while mammoths developed high-crowned molars with many ridges, mastodons stayed with fewer, more pointed ridges, preserving an older design. They had tusks growing from their upper jaw. These tusks could be enormous, curving upward in broad arcs. Some individuals' tusks reached well over 2 meters and grew thick in diameter, used for defense, competition for mates, or stripping bark from trees. Unlike mammoths, mastodons generally lacked large tusks in the lower jaw. Certain older species or relatives sometimes had small lower tusks, but Mammoth americanum typically had only vestigial or absent lower ones. Researchers sometimes find well-preserved tusks that show annual growth rings. This is like reading the tree rings that reveal each year of the mastodon's life. By analyzing them, scientists can glean information about diet, environmental stress, and sexual maturity cycles. Some tusks have signs of wear or breakage, pointing to how these animals used them in daily life, maybe prying apart thick vegetation or tussling in mating battles. Though physically shorter on average than some mammoths, mastodons were no pushovers. Many individuals had a shoulder height of around 2.8 meters or a bit more, but they weighed anywhere from 6 to 10 tons. That meant they were huge, especially if we compare them to living African bush elephants, which top out around 6 or 7 tons for a large male. The mass and thick bones gave them a commanding presence in Pleistocene woodlands. This robust design earned them the tank nickname, as they could crash through brush and dense forests without slowing down. The limbs were strong and pillar-like, with big, broad footpads. The humerus, femur, and other leg bones appear more robust than in modern elephants of similar height. Some paleontologists suggest this extra stockiness might reflect their habitat, thick forests with uneven ground. With that build, they could push aside the brush, topple smaller trees to reach high branches, or wade through shallow wetlands. Many American mastodon fossils come from marshy deposits, suggesting they often fed in swampy or forested wetland areas. Zoologists studying their skeletons see signs of heavy muscle attachments around the shoulders and back. Combine that with fairly short but dense vertebrae, and it suggests mastodons were powerful pushers or rammers if threatened. Their tusks, arching forward or curving upward, gave them a further weapon if needed. Some older accounts describe how ancient mastodons might have fought, but direct fossil evidence for specific battles is scarce. We do see certain adult males with broken tusk tips or damage to the skull that might come from violent interactions. Possibly, rival males locked tusks as they wrestled for mates or territory. Their big lung capacity and overall muscular body also point to stamina. In the Pleistocene's changing climate, resilience and sheer power would have helped them find new feeding grounds when conditions shifted. Sediment analyses reveal that wherever forest or wooded wetlands spread, mastodons usually followed. Indeed, they might have shaped the environment by knocking down trees or stirring up soils while rooting for edible plants. Their thick hide and layer of body fat likely helped them cope with winter cold in more northern latitudes. Mastodons excelled at browsing. The shape of their molars was perfect for shearing leaves, twigs, and other woody materials. We know from fossil dung and preserved gut contents that they ate coniferous branches, shrubs, fruits, and seeds. Sometimes they also sampled grasses, but it wasn't their main staple. This preference for forest or swamp habitats separated them from mammoths that often grazed on open plains. Mastodons' specialized teeth let them crush bark and handle tough bits of vegetation without wearing the teeth down too fast. While mammoths possessed tall molars with many flat ridges, mastodons stuck to their older dental blueprint, sturdy ridges shaped like pairs of cones known as zygodont teeth. The conical form allowed them to snip off branches or chunkier plant matter. That structure was an evolutionary remnant from earlier proboscidean ancestors that also browsed. Biting into branches might have required powerful jaw muscles, so we often see big jaw bones in well-preserved specimens. Thanks to the rich resources in Pleistocene woodlands, mastodons had enough to eat. In many areas, stands of spruce or pine offered year-round foliage, which they supplemented with deciduous leaves in warmer seasons. Various fruits or nuts may also have been part of their diet whenever they came across them. In Florida's sinkholes, for instance, scientists found traces of cypress and other wetland plants in mastodon remains. That suggests mastodons in the region waded through marshes, munching on swamp vegetation. Comparisons with living elephants and data from stable isotopes show that mastodons rarely roamed open grasslands. Their stable carbon isotope levels were typical of animals primarily consuming C3 plants, common in forested areas. By focusing on browse, they avoided direct competition with mammoths, which turned to more grass-based diets. This difference, known as niche partitioning, helped them coexist in some regions. Their daily routine likely involved slow foraging, using the trunk to pull down branches or strip bark. Tusks could assist in prying off bark or pushing over small trees. Like modern elephants, mastodons needed huge amounts of food each day, likely hundreds of pounds, so they spent much of their time feeding. In turn, they spread seeds and shaped the vegetation. Broken branches, trampled saplings, and churned soil were evidence of their presence. These feeding habits built an intricate link to the environment, from broad forests in the north to cypress swamps in the south. Mastodons were the heavy lifters of their woodland ecosystems, busily pruning trees and stirring up the undergrowth as they ate. North American mastodons are best known from the late Miocene through the Pleistocene, with Mammoth americanum as the typical example. Over time, they migrated across broad stretches of the continent, though not as far north or into the Arctic as some mammoths did. They preferred cool forests, likely with conifer stands, forested wetlands, or mixed woodlands. Many fossil sites confirm this preference. For example, in the Great Lakes region, countless mastodon skeletons have been recovered from bogs or older lake beds once ringed by trees. Ice Age changes in climate led to expansions and contractions of forests. Mastodons likely responded by moving with the shifting tree lines. During warmer periods, they ventured farther north as conifer forests spread. But during glacial episodes, they might have retreated southward or found patches of refuge where enough browse remained. They didn't handle wide-open tundra as well as mammoths did, so you see fewer mastodon remains in truly northern latitudes. Although they lived across much of what is now the United States and Canada, they were absent from extremely cold, treeless regions. We find them in states like Florida, Kentucky, and across the Midwest, but not in the far northern territories during harsh glacial times. The local climate shaped their distribution. Paleoecologists pieced together the details by analyzing fossil pollen, seeds, and plant remains associated with mastodon bones. Conifer pollen is common, especially from spruce or pine species. Often, water played a big role. They favored marshy or boggy grounds, sometimes stepping into shallow ponds for lush aquatic plants. This watery environment probably reduced the risk of water shortage in drier spells. It might also have provided them with a chance to cool off or escape biting insects in warmer months. Some researchers suspect that many prime mastodon habitats vanished as the Pleistocene ended and climates got more unpredictable, with a mix of warming and the arrival of humans in many areas. Across the continent, they sometimes lived alongside mammoths, giant ground sloths, and other Pleistocene megafauna. The richness of these communities gave them constant competition, but also plenty of resources. The presence of large carnivores like dire wolves, saber-toothed cats, or short-faced bears probably forced mastodons to remain ever alert, although an adult mastodon would be a difficult target. Like modern elephants, they shaped their surroundings significantly, influencing forest structure and distribution. This synergy between mastodons, their habitat, and other fauna formed an intricate web of life during the Ice Age woodlands of North America. Mastodon social patterns likely resembled those of modern elephants. Females and their calves formed herds under an older matriarch's guidance, traveling in search of the best feeding zones. This offered security for the young, who were more vulnerable to predators. The mother was probably the central figure in teaching calves vital survival skills: how to find decent browse in different seasons, how to navigate the terrain, and how to avoid threats. Males matured around 10 to 12 years old. Once they reached a certain threshold, they probably left or were nudged out of the herd, living alone or in small bachelor groups with other males. This is seen in modern elephants and is presumed to be an ancient pattern in proboscideans. Freed from herd constraints, these male mastodons roamed widely, searching for mates and establishing local dominance. Since their tusks were large and robust, battles for mates likely occurred, though we only have indirect fossil hints, like damaged tusks or partially healed wounds on jaws. Reproduction was presumably slow. Females might have carried calves for about 22 months, akin to the gestation of elephants. The result was usually one calf at a time. That low reproductive rate means populations grew slowly, so they couldn't rapidly bounce back from big losses. Calves nursed for a year or more, gradually shifting to browse. The mother-calf bond might have stayed strong for several years as the calf learned crucial life lessons. Fossil evidence from places like the Burning Tree Mastodon site in Ohio hints that some individuals reached 30 or 40 years old, but a few might have lived longer. As with modern elephants, older mastodons could have gained respect from younger animals. The mothers protected their offspring vigorously, forming defensive circles if danger came near. Juveniles, meanwhile, learned the routes to feeding and watering sites. For instance, in colder climates, they might have migrated seasonally to find secure, food-rich areas. In times of stress like deep winter or drought, herds might have shrunk or combined, depending on local conditions. We can also guess that a wide range of social calls existed, with low-frequency rumbles traveling through the forest. Their ears were smaller than those of African elephants, but they still had an acute hearing for communication. Overall, the herd structure combined safety, knowledge transfer, and collective decision-making. This social dynamic, refined over eons, was key to mastodon success in North American woodlands. When humans arrived in North America, mastodons became prime targets for hunting or scavenging, just like bison or mammoths. Archaeological sites with mastodon bones found near stone tools or cut marks confirm these giant browsers were part of Paleo-Indian diets, albeit less frequently than mammoths. Some scientists propose that repeated hunts played a part in population declines, especially once Pleistocene climates were also changing. A few sites, like the Kimswick site in Missouri, show strong evidence of mastodon butchering. For many centuries, Native American myths might have referenced giant, tusked beasts that once roamed the forests. Though direct references are rare, tribal stories sometimes mention huge creatures similar to elephants. When European colonists later uncovered mastodon bones in swamps or near rivers, they sparked widespread curiosity. Some early thinkers guessed they belonged to biblical giants or monstrous carnivores. Thomas Jefferson famously took an interest and promoted the idea that these animals showed the vibrant, rich, natural history of the American land. The sense of wonder only grew when major mastodon skeletons turned up. In the late 1700s and early 1800s, displays of mastodon monsters in traveling shows or museums drew big crowds. Some exhibits mislabeled them or confused them with mammoths. Others claimed they might still exist in remote forests. In time, detailed research confirmed that mastodons were extinct, distinct from mammoths, and specialized forest dwellers. This knowledge broadened the public view of prehistoric life in America. Mastodon remains also helped shape American science. Early fossil finds and debates fueled the rise of paleontology in the young United States. Politicians, scholars, and collectors vied to get skeletons for personal or institutional museums. One famous find was the Warren mastodon, discovered in New York and meticulously studied. Observers marveled at the teeth, the large tusks, and the stout limbs. Another renowned find is the Bueshing mastodon from Indiana, which lets experts measure growth rings in the tusks. As the Pleistocene came to a close, North America's climate shifted dramatically. Glaciers retreated, summers became warmer, forests changed location, and open grasslands spread in many areas. Mastodons, specialized for browsing in cooler forests, faced diminishing habitats or more patchy distributions of their preferred foods. This created a puzzle. Some mastodons adapted by moving to new forests, but many populations sank as the last major glaciations ended around 11,000 years ago. Alongside climate upheaval, the arrival of skilled human hunters across the continent likely pushed them further. Large mammals across the Americas, from giant ground sloths to saber-toothed cats, vanished in a wave of late Pleistocene extinctions. Mastodons did not disappear all at once, though. Fossils in certain areas show they might have held on in small pockets for a bit longer. However, by about 10,500 years ago, they were effectively gone. Some remains date even later, which suggests a few outliers might have survived. But eventually, the combination of climate change, habitat loss, and hunting pressure spelled doom. In modern times, they became some of the first American fossils studied with real scientific care. Mastodons ignited debates. Why did they vanish? Were humans to blame, or was it mostly climate? Researchers continue to refine the timeline, discovering exact radiocarbon dates to confirm how quickly they died out. One thing is sure, their extinction reshaped the ecosystems. No other large browsers stepped in to fill their niche. Forest structures changed without big animals to knock down trees or break up thick vegetation. This might have had ripple effects on the distribution of various plant species. One of the earliest recorded dire occurred in 1854 along the Ohio River near Evansville, Indiana. It ended up in the hands of geologist Joseph Granville Norwood, who passed it to paleontologist Joseph Leidy for identification. At first, they thought it belonged to an ancient wolf, labeling it Canis primivus. Over time, other big wolf bones from places like Nebraska joined the discussion. Eventually, experts realized these remains all pointed to a single extinct species. By 1858, Leidy introduced the name Canis dirus, meaning terrible wolf in Latin. Not long after, more fossil finds spread across the United States. Scientists saw that these giant wolves all shared distinct features, but they assumed they belonged under the same genus as modern wolves, coyotes, and dogs. For a time, the extinct creature was simply another member of Canis, but arguments arose once experts noticed the dire wolf's larger skull and teeth. By the early 1900s, bone fragments recovered from California's Rancho La Brea tar pits strengthened the idea that this impressive canid was far from ordinary and truly fascinating. Over time, scientists proposed changing its classification. John Campbell Merriam once suggested putting the species in a separate genus named Enochian, which means terrible dog. Yet this idea did not gain full acceptance right away. For decades, many paleontologists stuck with Canis dirus, linking it firmly to wolves. It was only in 2021, when researchers sequenced ancient DNA from dire wolf fossils, that the idea of a separate genus re-emerged with new force. This genetic breakthrough helped confirm that dire wolves were not just oversized gray wolves, but rather a long, isolated lineage. Today, the recognized name for this creature is Enochion dirus, reflecting its unique path apart from living wolf species. Its story highlights how paleontology can shift when new fossils appear or modern techniques offer fresh clues. No longer lumped in with the gray wolf, the dire wolf now stands as a separate branch in the canid family. This shift in taxonomy reminds us that Earth's fossil record holds ongoing mysteries. What started as scattered bones in the mid-1800s evolved into a major paleontological puzzle, reminding us that ancient life had surprising complexities. And that puzzle still keeps growing. The dire wolf's ancestors likely emerged in North America millions of years ago, branching away from the line that gave rise to modern gray wolves and coyotes. Although many experts once assumed dire wolves came from an old-world wolf that crossed into the Americas, new DNA findings indicate a separate track. Their divergence might date back 5.7 million years or more. This suggests that dire wolves were not simply larger versions of existing wolves, but part of a distinct lineage that thrived on this continent for a very long time. Fossils of older canines, such as Eukion, spread from North America to Eurasia millions of years earlier. But the branch leading to dire wolves stayed here, adapting to conditions that were different from those faced by gray wolves overseas. Over centuries, repeated climate shifts and migrations shaped canid evolution. Gray wolves and coyotes arrived in mid-latitude North America later, during the late Pleistocene. By then, dire wolves were already established. Their isolation may have limited genetic exchange with other canids, helping them remain a separate group. One remarkable aspect is how similar dire wolves looked to gray wolves, even though they weren't close relatives. This phenomenon, known as convergent evolution, often occurs when separate species adapt to the same types of prey and habitats. Over time, these pressures produce matching shapes and features. For dire wolves, living beside gray wolves in North America led to many parallels in body plan. Yet deep genetic work shows dire wolves were more closely linked to animals like African jackals than to the gray wolf or dog lineages. Despite their long separation, dire wolves and gray wolves did share North American turf. Fossils found in places like the La Brea tar pits reveal both species occupying the same region for thousands of years. However, no sign of interbreeding appears in the genetic record. This suggests that dire wolves kept to their lineage, different breeding cycles, or genetic barriers. That separation shaped their fate when ice sheets melted and environments changed. While gray wolves spread and adapted, dire wolves faced new obstacles. Their distinct evolutionary journey would come to a close before it could indeed leave an enduring mark on North American prehistory. The dire wolf was similar in size to the largest modern gray wolf, especially those in the northwest of North America. Still, many individuals weighed between 60 and 68 kilograms, with some reaching up to 68 kilograms or more. A few might have topped 90 kilograms, although the absolute maximum remains uncertain. Because of its heavier build, the dire wolf often appeared more robust than today's wolves. Its limbs, skull, and teeth were proportionally larger, giving it a bulky frame that hinted at a life spent hunting big prey. Its skull could measure over 30 centimeters, with wide zygomatic arches and a noticeable sagittal crest on top. This shape housed strong jaw muscles, allowing powerful bites. The dire wolf's snout was also broad. Despite these hefty features, it likely had a slightly smaller brain cavity compared to a gray wolf of the same size. Researchers suggest it sacrificed some cranial capacity for added biting strength. Though it walked on four legs like a typical canid, certain bones in its forelimbs and hind limbs were thicker, matching its heavyset physique. Interestingly, fossil evidence indicates at least two subspecies: Enochion dirus gildayi, found mostly in western regions like California and Mexico, and Enochion dirus, discovered east of the Rocky Mountains. The western form tended to have shorter legs and was about 10 to 15% smaller. The eastern subspecies had somewhat longer limbs, suggesting a stronger runner. Both types, however, displayed large, sturdy skulls and strong jaws. Their foot structure was also slightly broader than that of many gray wolves, which might have helped support their heavier bodies on rough ground. Scientists note that the dire wolf's canines were not just long, they were also more flexible than those of modern canids. This odd flexibility might have let them grip struggling prey without easily snapping their teeth. Their premolars and molars were well designed for slicing through muscle and possibly cracking bone. Taken together, all these features point to a predator built for power. Though it shared the wolf label for many years, the dire wolf's morphology shows a distinct creature, one that combined raw strength with specialized traits, ideal for Ice Age survival. Bite force, dentition, and feeding adaptations. A key feature that sets the dire wolf apart is its impressive bite force. When researchers compared the bite force of various carnivores, they discovered the dire wolf had one of the strongest pound-for-pound bites among placental mammals. Its large temporalis muscles, anchored on the high sagittal crest, generated enough force to grip and tear through tough hides. Even massive predators like Smilodon did not consistently top the dire wolf in raw bite efficiency when size is taken into account. Much of this ability comes from the dire wolf's specialized dentition. Its carnassial teeth, which are the cutting molars, were larger than those of most canids, providing more surface area for slicing. This design suggests a hypercarnivorous diet, meaning it consumed over 70% meat. Stable isotope studies from tar pit fossils confirm that dire wolves often fed on big herbivores. Their strong bite and specialized teeth helped them tackle animals like ancient horses, prehistoric bison, and camels. Now and then, they may have scavenged or fed on smaller mammals too. Tooth breakage is common in predators, and dire wolves were no exception. At sites such as the La Brea tar pits, many dire wolf fossils show worn or fractured teeth, especially the incisors and canines. Scientists think this stems from gnawing on large bones or fighting with prey that resisted fiercely. Some studies link higher tooth breakage rates to times of food stress when predators devoured carcasses more completely. A high breakage rate may indicate fierce competition for limited resources toward the end of the Pleistocene. Yet even with these challenges, the dire wolf was well equipped to handle demanding hunts. Its flexible canines likely reduced the risk of teeth snapping during a kill. Studies of tooth enamel also suggest it could strip flesh down to the bone, leaving little behind. By combining raw biting strength with advanced shearing molars, dire wolves could consume a wide variety of prey. This adaptability hints at a predator that thrived on abundance, but also managed lean times by fully utilizing every meal, revealing its place as a top Ice Age carnivore. Most canids are social to some degree, and fossil evidence suggests dire wolves were no different. Large numbers of dire wolves remain in single spots, such as the La Brea tar pits, imply they often approach trapped animals together. A lone predator might hesitate around hazardous tar seeps, but packs can be drawn by the promise of a substantial meal. Once a big herbivore got stuck, a group of dire wolves might gather, each hoping to claim a share of the prize. Sadly for many, the sticky asphalt also ensnared them. Studies of dire wolf skeletons show limited sexual dimorphism, which suggests pair bonding much like modern wolves. In many wolf species, an alpha pair produces pups, and older offspring stick around to help. This arrangement fosters cooperation, letting them tackle large prey. The same might have been true for dire wolves, who probably raised pups in a group. Bonds among pack members would have strengthened their chances in fierce encounters with big animals like mammoths or giant sloths, although some of these hunts likely led to lethal injuries. One intriguing clue to pack behavior comes from tooth wear patterns. Certain dire wolf remains have heavily worn incisors, possibly from repeated gripping and pulling during group kills. When multiple wolves latch onto a struggling bison, for instance, they might wear down their front teeth faster than a solitary hunter. The high number of individuals in certain tar pit deposits might also indicate intense competition. If a few dire wolves discovered a trapped horse, more could have quickly joined, leading to crowding, fights for access, and even more dire wolves getting stuck. Though we cannot watch them in action, many scientists imagine dire wolf packs were complex. Parents probably taught their pups to hunt, just like modern wolves do. Social calls and scents might have coordinated the group over wide distances. Each pack's size could vary, but some estimates range from a dozen to 30 members. This level of social structure allowed dire wolves to spread widely and exploit different habitats. Whether stalking open grasslands or forest edges, they likely relied on teamwork to bring down prey that far exceeded their weight. Dire wolves roamed across a large part of the Americas. Fossils have been found in regions as far south as Bolivia and Peru, and as far north as parts of Canada. They appeared comfortable in various environments, from arid savannas to grassy plains. Some remains even come from slightly forested mountains. Their range extended throughout the United States, with notable finds in California, Florida, South Carolina, and beyond. Mexico also yielded important fossils, including major collections at certain caves and open sites. These discoveries hint that dire wolves were not highly specialized in a single habitat, but rather could adapt to different settings if prey was available. In warmer tropical zones, they found animals like ground sloths and smaller camel species. In cooler latitudes, they pursued Pleistocene bison and horses. Although they seemed widespread, certain areas have fewer or no remains. For instance, dire wolf fossils are rarely identified above roughly 42 degrees north latitude. Possibly the colder climates or thick ice sheets of the north limited their spread or favored other predators. Surprisingly, one fossil from northeastern China, dated to around 40,000 years ago, has been proposed as a dire wolf. If true, it would mean these canids crossed the Bering Land Bridge into Asia. However, some researchers doubt this identification, arguing the fossils need more study. Still, the idea opens the possibility that dire wolves could travel wherever land connections and available prey existed. Yet their main stronghold appears to have been North and South America, where they lasted through much of the late Pleistocene. In North America, famous troves of dire wolf bones come from the Rancho La Brea tar pits in Los Angeles. This urban fossil site has yielded thousands of skeletons, reflecting how common the species was in that region. Other localities in the southwestern United States also show a strong presence, while eastern states hold plenty of remains for Enochian dirus dirus. This broad distribution reveals a predator able to handle varied climates and landscapes. Wherever large herbivores roamed, the dire wolf likely followed, carving out a place atop the food chain. Prey, hunting strategies, and ecological role. Dire wolves thrived in the late Pleistocene, a time rich in megafauna. Giant ground sloths, camels, bison, mastodons, and ancient horses all shared the landscape. By examining dire wolf bone chemistry, scientists learned they preyed heavily on grazing animals. Horses in particular show up in isotopic studies as a common meal. Although they did not ignore other targets, these canids were not fussy. They seemed to grab chances whenever large animals appeared weak, injured, or trapped. In some sites, dire wolf bones lie alongside those of mammoths or mastodons, suggesting occasional scavenging of enormous carcasses. A pack of dire wolves might start a hunt by spreading out and corralling a large herbivore. Some individuals could nip at the flanks while others rushed in for a decisive bite. Their powerful jaws let them cling to thrashing prey. Fossil evidence reveals frequent tooth damage, meaning these hunts were not easy. Big prey could deliver dangerous kicks or gore with horns, yet by working together, dire wolves increased their odds of success. In many ways, they likely resembled modern gray wolves chasing bison, though the scale of the Pleistocene world was larger. Research on tooth wear also suggests dire wolves ate quickly and consumed a lot of bone. Competition from other Pleistocene predators, such as Smilodon and the American lion, forced them to eat fast before being challenged or driven away. The La Brea tar pits highlight this tension. Numerous carnivore species died while trying to claim the same trapped prey. Dire wolves appear as the most common large canid at that site, possibly outcompeting smaller coyotes and holding their ground against bigger cats in group confrontations. As top predators, dire wolves influenced herbivore populations by controlling weaker members. Their presence would have shaped the dynamics of Pleistocene ecosystems, keeping certain animals in check and opening scavenging niches for smaller creatures. In stable times, a balance was maintained, but near the end of the Ice Age, changes in climate and vegetation disrupted these interactions. Many big animals went extinct, removing a vital food source for dire wolves. Still, for much of their reign, these canids played a central part in the complex tapestry of life: extinction, legacy, and modern scientific insights. The dire wolf vanished from the fossil record around 9,500 years ago, near the close of the last major ice age. Many blame the disappearance of large prey animals for this collapse. As climates warmed and habitats shifted, the big herbivores that dire wolves relied on either migrated north, declined drastically, or died out entirely. Humans also arrived in North America thousands of years before, and their hunting could have reduced mega herbivore numbers. Whatever the cause, the result was a sudden drop in the dire wolf's main food supply. Some have suggested disease or direct conflict with humans, but there is little solid proof. Another factor might have been the dire wolf's inability to adapt its diet to smaller creatures. Gray wolves, with more flexible feeding habits, survived by shifting to deer or smaller game. Dire wolves, specialized for bigger prey, may have struggled to sustain large pack sizes when bison and horses became scarce. If they tried to switch, competition with rising gray wolf populations could have driven them into less favorable areas, further stressing their numbers. Modern research has shed more light on this mystery. Radiocarbon dating of bones from La Brea and other sites places dire wolves right up to the cusp of the Holocene, meaning they survived into relatively recent times. DNA analyses confirm they had no recent mixing with coyotes or gray wolves, denying them any helpful genetic traits that might have emerged in canids from other parts of the world. Their lineage remained pure, but that purity likely turned into a disadvantage when rapid environmental changes arrived. The American lion was a predator unlike any other. Bigger than any lion alive today, this massive feline dominated the prehistoric landscape with brute strength and razor-sharp instincts. Some would even say it was the only lion capable of killing a polar bear, a claim that sparks endless debate. But was this legendary beast truly powerful enough to take down the Arctic's greatest hunter? In the early 1830s, fossil hunters stumbled upon the remains of a huge cat in Natchez, Mississippi. At first, scientists were uncertain which feline it belonged to. Joseph Leidy named it Felis atrox in 1853, meaning savage cat. Over time, paleontologists realized these bones did not match ordinary lions, tigers, or jaguars. The creature stood apart. By 1909, more fossils emerged from places like Rancho La Brea in California. These included skulls, teeth, and skeleton fragments. Experts say a cat is much bigger than modern lions. Its features, from jaw shape to bone size, caused debate. Some people called it a jaguar relative, while others argued it was a separate species. In the 20th century, scientists also analyzed skulls found in Alaska, linking them to the same cat, yet with subtle differences. Names like Felis imperialis or Felis atrox alaskensis appeared, but did not last. All these different labels fell under one umbrella: Panthera atrox, commonly called the American lion. Genetic research later showed a close link between the American lion and the Eurasian cave lion. DNA suggests they split from a common ancestor that is also related to modern African lions. For a while, some experts even placed the American lion as a subspecies of the African lion, naming it Panthera leo atrox. However, further studies argued that it deserved full species status, separate from both living lions and cave lions. This confusion reflects how the big cat's skeleton combined traits found in modern lions, tigers, and even jaguars. Fossils have been found across North America, from Mexico to Canada, showing how widespread it was. Because of its broad distribution and unique anatomy, the American lion helped scientists solve the complex family tree of big cats in the New World. Each discovery refined our understanding of its place in the Panthera group. Though now recognized as a distinct felid, it remains intertwined with the stories of ancient lions, jaguars, and other cave lions. This tangled history highlights the dynamic nature of paleontology, where each new bone or DNA clue can rewrite the story. Panthera atrox, with its many nicknames and reclassifications, continues to remind us that science evolves just as these cats once did on the ancient plains. The American lion was enormous, surpassing the size of modern African lions by up to 25%. Some estimates place large males at weights of over 500 kilograms. Even more modest finds suggest they were typically heavier than the biggest male lions we see today. Their skeletons reveal long limbs, a deep chest, and an impressive head shape. This gave them a powerful build, yet still allowed speed and agility. Compared to African lions, the American lion likely stood taller at the shoulder. Its forelimbs were robust, hinting at strong muscles used for taking down large prey. The skull shape combined lion-like and tiger-like features. Researchers have found that the jaws were well suited for delivering a crushing bite, although not as specialized as saber-toothed cats of the same era. Still, these jaws could handle thick hides and large bones. Fossil evidence points to dense bone structure and formidable forelimbs that could grapple with creatures like bison or young mammoths. One point often discussed is how these lions are compared to polar bears. Modern polar bears rank among the biggest land carnivores, with large males sometimes exceeding 700 kilograms. If an American lion matched that mass, it could, in theory, rival the power of a polar bear. Both animals had robust frames designed for predation, though in different habitats. Polar bears use heavy paddle-like paws for swimming and seal hunting, while American lions possess strong legs for running and grappling. A confrontation between them remains speculative, but many wonder if the American lion's raw muscle and hunting style might have given it an edge on land. Their coats and manes are a mystery, as hair rarely fossilizes. Some experts suggest they had shorter, lighter fur than African lions, adapted to cooler conditions of the Pleistocene. Others believe the males may have had small manes or none at all, more like today's cave lion reconstructions. While the exact color is unknown, the environment likely called for a muted coat to blend into grasslands or lightly forested areas. The American lion was thus a creature of size, strength, and speed. In that prehistoric world, it took the lion's body plan to new extremes, standing as a formidable predator capable of tackling huge prey and possibly contesting even the mightiest modern carnivores. Fossil evidence shows that American lions descended from earlier pantherine cats that crossed into North America. Scientists once believed they were close relatives of jaguars or tigers, but genetic research points toward a different path. They seem more aligned with cave lions from Eurasia, forming their offshoot that adapted to new lands south of the ice sheets. In comparing American lion DNA to that of modern lions, studies find they share a common ancestor dating back around 165,000 years. This ancestor likely spread from Eurasia into Alaska, then moved farther south over time. Because Earth's climate shifted often in the Pleistocene, groups of lions were sometimes isolated. These isolated populations developed their traits, leading to the rise of both the American lion and the Eurasian cave lion. Mitochondrial data reveal strong ties between American lions and cave lions, yet also highlight unique changes in the American lineage. Over thousands of years, they adapted to hunt large herbivores found only in North America. This included mammoths, bison, giant ground sloths, and even camels. The shape of their skull and limbs may have changed to handle different challenges, creating a bigger cat, stronger, and perhaps better at long chases on open terrain. Scientists also explored how these lions might relate to modern species. Though the American lion was once called a subspecies of the African lion, deeper DNA work suggested it branched off earlier, forming a parallel line. The name Panthera atrox replaced Panthera leo-atrox, reflecting this new understanding. Such reclassifications help clarify the big cat family tree and highlight the dynamic process of evolution. One fascinating aspect is how the environment's shifting ice and changing habitats drove repeated expansions and isolations among big cat populations. The American lion's story shows how these cats took advantage of North America's ample prey and mild climates compared to the harsh tundra further north. With each generation, they refined traits for capturing bison or ambushing deer in wooded areas. This evolutionary road ended with a cat that blended the look of a lion with features not seen in any big cat alive today, revealing a distinct branch in the ever-evolving saga of pantherine history. American lions thrived as apex predators in Pleistocene North America, often coexisting with other powerful hunters like Smilodon and dire wolves. While saber-toothed cats likely specialized in ambush, American lions seem to have been more flexible. They chased prey in open habitats and possibly used coordinated tactics if they lived in groups, though solid proof of pride living remains debated. Based on teeth analysis, they favored large herbivores such as bison, horses, and even juvenile mammoths. Their jaws could shear flesh and crush bone, but they were also adept at avoiding tooth damage, suggesting efficient feeding methods. Some scientists believe they might have waited near waterholes or common migration routes to surprise thirsty animals. They may have grabbed hold with their strong forelimbs, similar to modern lions, then delivered a throat bite. Evidence from La Brea tar pits indicates they shared the landscape with Smilodon. Both big cats targeted large game, yet stable isotope studies hint that American lions sometimes pursued forest or open country prey, while Smilodon hunted more in brushy zones. Still, overlaps occurred, forcing both species to stay competitive. In times of scarcity, these lions likely scoured for carrion, stealing kills from weaker predators. Comparing their hunting style to that of polar bears reveals some parallels and differences. Polar bears ambush seals at breathing holes, relying on stealth and quick strikes. American lions probably used short bursts of speed and group coordination for bigger animals, or careful stalking for smaller ones. Both species share the hallmark of top carnivores. They exploited their environment's weaknesses. For polar bears, it's waiting on sea ice for seals. For American lions, it was dominating large mammals that roamed Pleistocene grasslands and valleys. Due to their size and strength, adult American lions faced few threats besides injuries during hunts or competition with other big carnivores. Their robust limbs indicate they were designed for grappling, and the presence of large prey in their diet reveals consistent success in bringing down formidable targets. While many details remain uncertain, the fossils speak clearly. American lions were active, adaptable hunters, able to chase, ambush, or scavenge, depending on conditions, and that versatility helped them reign over prehistoric North America. During the late Pleistocene, American lions lived across a vast range in North America. Their remains have turned up from Canada to Mexico, indicating they could adapt to many habitats, including grasslands, shrublands, and lightly forested regions. They avoided dense forests, favoring open areas where large herbivores roamed. Some fossils even appear near caves, which might have provided shelter or den sites. The key to their success was a varied prey base. North America then hosted massive animals like mammoths, mastodons, giant sloths, and camels, plus smaller ungulates such as deer. Where bison thrived, so did American lions. In these settings, they might have competed with dire wolves and saber-toothed cats. Each predator had distinct methods of hunting, allowing them to coexist without entirely wiping one another out. Environmental changes shaped their movements. When glaciers expanded, the cats' habitat shifted southward, along with the herds they hunted. Fossil evidence places them in areas with cooler temperatures than modern lions often face. They could handle somewhat colder climates as long as prey remained abundant. Their distribution suggests an ability to traverse wide areas, possibly following migrating herds through valleys and plains. It remains uncertain if they relied on rock formations or tall grasses for stealth. Because we lack direct observations, researchers piece together possibilities from evidence at kill sites or tar pits. The abundance of big grazers during certain periods must have drawn them to open prairies, while more wooded zones offered cover for stalking. They likely roamed individually or in small groups, scanning territory for meal opportunities. Their ecological role was top-level predators, pressuring herbivore populations and influencing the balance of other carnivores. They fit the profile of a lion-like cat, adapted to roam large territories. In modern Africa, lions hold similar roles, but the American lion existed in a land of giant sloths and saber-tooths. Such a setting demanded strong, versatile hunters. Their presence across the continent for thousands of years underscores that they flourished in diverse conditions. Warm or cool, grassy or partly wooded, they found a way to survive, controlling prey numbers and helping shape the complex food webs of North America's Ice Age past. One of the most fascinating claims about the American lion is that it was the only lion that could kill a polar bear. This statement, passed around in pop culture, fuels imagination. Yet, was it likely? American lions and polar bears never shared the same region in any major way. Polar bears thrived on Arctic sea ice, stalking seals, while American lions roamed grasslands and woodlands far to the south. They did not naturally overlap. Still, when people make this comparison, they mean to emphasize the American lion's size and power. They imagine a hypothetical face-off between a 500-kilogram lion and a 600 or 700-kilogram polar bear. In such a rare scenario, the outcome might hinge on location. On land, a lion could use elegant lunges and strong bites to gain an advantage. In water or on slippery ice, the polar bear's swimming skills would dominate. Realistically, any fight between them would be brutal and unpredictable. Several factors shape these fantasies. The American lion's robust limbs and predator instincts made it deadly against large prey. Polar bears, by contrast, use their bulk and stamina to chase seals or scavenge whale carcasses. They can also deliver strong swipes from massive forepaws. Fans of both creatures debate which predator had the higher bite force or more cunning strategy. From a scientific standpoint, the question is purely hypothetical because these animals belonged to different ecosystems. It makes more sense to compare how each excelled in its habitat. The polar bear is supreme on Arctic sea ice, while the American lion was supreme on open land. Claiming the American lion is the only lion that could kill a polar bear might reflect its status as the largest known lion, but it remains in the world of speculation. Like many large mammals of the late Pleistocene, the American lion vanished near the end of that epoch. around 12,800 years ago. Multiple factors likely contributed. Climate changes after the last glacial period caused shifts in temperature and rainfall patterns, altering habitats. As ice sheets receded, grasslands and woodlands transformed, affecting populations of the big herbivores American lions depended on. Human arrival in the Americas also played a role. Early hunters may have targeted the large prey these lions needed. When big herbivores declined, top predators faced hunger. Some experts propose a trophic cascade, where human hunting of mammoths, bison, and horses eventually caused a ripple effect that left apex predators with fewer meals. While direct hunting of the American lion by humans is not widely evidenced, competition for prey was enough to strain these big cats. Fossil sites in places like Natural Trap Cave in Wyoming reveal well-preserved remains of American lions, showing that they were still present before the terminal Pleistocene extinctions. Then, in a relatively short span, they disappeared along with saber-toothed cats, dire wolves, and many other iconic creatures. It is possible that the rapid climate changes stressed their prey populations, and the added pressure of human interference proved too much. Some scientists also examine how the American lion's specialized nature might have made it vulnerable. Being so large, it needed ample territory and abundant prey to sustain its energy demands. When environments became more patchy and bison herds declined, these lions might have struggled to find enough food. Their low numbers could have led to inbreeding and further decline. We may never pinpoint the exact moment of their extinction. The fossil record only shows us that after a certain point, they ceased to appear. Their disappearance marked the end of a long legacy of big cats that adapted to North America's unique ecosystems. Alongside mammoths, ground sloths, and giant camels, the American lion reminds us of a time when the continent boasted creatures that rivaled any on Earth. Their passing stands as a testament to the fragile balance between environment, species survival, and sudden changes that can solve ancient lineages. Although extinct, the American lion remains a figure of wonder in scientific and popular culture. Paleontologists celebrate its record as one of the largest felids ever documented, rivaling only a few other prehistoric cats in sheer mass. Its fossils, especially the many recovered from La Brea tar pits, offer a window into life during the Pleistocene. Exhibits in museums let the public stand face-to-face with towering skeletal reconstructions, inspiring curiosity about life before humans dominated the continent. Writers and artists have also taken creative license, portraying the American lion as a king-like creature crossing frigid plains in pursuit of mammoths or staging epic battles with saber-toothed rivals. These depictions blur reality and myth, yet they serve to keep the cat's legacy alive. Popular media sometimes includes references to giant lions that once roamed North America, hinting at the same fierce predator. For scientists, the American lion holds clues to pantherine evolution. By examining its bones and DNA, researchers refine ideas about how big cats adapted to new food sources and climates. Each study that compares American lion remains with those of modern lions or cave lions highlights the diverse ways cats respond to changing environments. This knowledge can even inform conservation strategies for living big cats, reminding us that large predators are especially vulnerable to habitat disruptions. In local legend, the American lion has not enjoyed as much coverage as the saber-toothed cat, perhaps because it looks more familiar to modern eyes. Yet some communities, especially near major fossil sites, take pride in hosting a piece of the cat's history. Interpretive centers, wildlife murals, and nature trails may reference the mighty lion that once stalked their region. Visitors walk away with a sense of wonder, imagining an ancient world where a lion could weigh over 500 kilograms. Thus, the American lion stands as a marvel of the past, a cat so mighty it sparks visions of battles with today's fiercest predators. Though it vanished long ago, it continues to fascinate both researchers and enthusiasts. By discovering its bones and analyzing every clue, we honor its memory and learn from its fate. This towering cat reminds us that every species, no matter how grand, is bound to nature's changing tides. If you enjoyed this video, then make sure to let us know down below, and don't forget to catch our next video, shown on screen.